I'd like to call our meeting to order. I have 6:01. I would declare that we do have a quorum present. If you will please stand for our invocation, which will be led by Mr. Dunn, and then our pledges of allegiance, which will be led by Stephen F. Austin Elementary students.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, we just come to you tonight, Lord, just thanking you for being so good to us, for blessing us. Father, we thank you for our community. We thank you for everything that we see your hand in across our campuses, our kids, and our families. We're thankful for that. Father, thank you that we can be in these beautiful facilities tonight to do the business of the district. Just pray that the things that are said and done will be pleasing to you. I guess we fail you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I'd like to ask our board to begin making its way to the front as we transition into our awards, achievements, and recognition time. I will now turn our presentation over to Mrs. Carla Chrisman.
Good evening, Board President Howard, Superintendent Massey, board members, guests, and faculty and staff. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. To start us off will be the Director of Human Resources, Ms. Neighbors.
Good evening. When we call your name, if you could stand up here, and then you will go through the board. I am presenting the Spotlight Educator for February Awards. The purpose of the BISD Educator Spotlight Award is to recognize outstanding teachers across our district. These are teachers who go above and beyond for not only students, but for their coworkers as well. They're knocking instruction out of the park. They're collaborative team members and support all learners. These teachers lift up their coworkers and students, and their overall performance is spectacular. From Brazosport High School, we have Samantha Stanley. Samantha is a 10th, 11th, and 12th grade English teacher. She's the definition of a professional. She is a support system to her department and is an instrumental member of Brazosport's instructional leadership team. She consistently brings high-quality instruction for her students each and every day. She has a positive attitude and serves her campus in the spirit of excellence.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
And for our elementary spotlight, we have Mary Heckendorn from O.M. Roberts Elementary, intervention teacher. Mary Heckendorn truly embodies BISD's beliefs. Mary works with all teachers, parents, and students to ensure that our students are receiving the high-quality education through targeted intervention, skill development, and bridging learning gaps. She builds relationships with students and their families inside the school and out in the community to help students feel connected to their school and strengthen their learning experience. Mary's experience in teaching all grade levels helps build a foundation of support and resources for our teachers. She's always willing to go above and beyond to help the overall of the campus and to make all students succeed. And you just can't help but be happy around her. Her positivity and smile are contagious.
Thank you for all you do.
Okay, you're also tall. Good. There, let's get that. like the dance off. Just only.
So it just ran out.
1, 2, 3, and another 1, 2, 3. You getting it? Yep, doing okay. Everybody smile.
Sadly, that's all the recognitions this evening, but we will be back in March, and I know you will as well, and we'll have more. Every day's a good day.
There are a few seats available across the aisle, if y'all would like to go.
Get the roof's tilting.
Don't we need to balance the plane or something?
At this time, in accordance with BD Local, the board will provide an audience with individuals who have signed up prior to the meeting to address the board. Tonight, we have one request to come into the board. Mr. Atkins will serve as our timekeeper for those requesting to speak to the board. Comments are limited to a maximum of 5 minutes per speaker, with a maximum of 30 minutes total allotted for public comment. Delegations more than 5 shall appoint a representative to present their views. The board will not entertain negative comments or on individual personnel or students in public session. Patrons are encouraged to use appropriate canvas and administrative channels before bringing their concerns to the board. And board members are not allowed to deliberate, discuss, or make decisions regarding subjects not included on the agenda posted. Tonight, we have Ms. Marina McDougall.
I don't speak in public ever, but I'm very passionate about my child. Good evening. My name is Marina McDougall. I have only been a part of the school district for a little over a year. My oldest child is 6, and he is only in kindergarten. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but when I saw what was on the agenda in regards to our superintendent, I could not remain silent. I am here to raise concerns and awareness of the fact that our current superintendent, Danny Massey, has shown parents very little concern regarding the abuse that took place at O.M. Roberts Elementary. He has been added to many emails by parents and has not responded to them, except for one where the parent called him out directly for not responding to her. And instead of responding, he forwarded her email to the personnel that she did not want to speak with. He has not spoken with me or approached me in any way until this very evening. He came up and introduced himself. Regarding this situation, but he's never discussed this situation with me as a parent, which sends a message to me of lack of concern for the well-being of our children. As the superintendent, I assume one of the top priorities would be the safety and well-being of our children. I have not felt that, and I'm certain I'm not the only one.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item that we have on our agenda is a public hearing. We will now ask Mr. Ron Redden to conduct a public hearing to discuss Brazosport ISD 2023 Texas Academic Performance Report. State law provides that a public meeting will be held to discuss this topic. Public participation is invited at the conclusion of the presentation. Mr. Redden.
All right, thank you. Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy AIB Legal and requirements under Texas Education Code Chapter 39.306, and in alignment with District Goals 1, 2, and 4, it is my pleasure to conduct a public hearing this evening
on the 2023 Brazosport ISD Annual Performance Report. Texas Education Code, Chapter 39.306 requires each public school district's Board of Trustees to publish an annual report that includes the Texas Academic Performance Report, or the TAPER, the PEAMS Financial Standards Report, the district's accreditation status, a current campus performance objectives with progress report, the special education determination status, a school safety report, the student performance and post-secondary institutions report, and a report on the progress being made toward meeting the board's House Bill 3 literacy, numeracy, and CC mark goals. This year, the annual report does not include A through F ratings or distinction designations since the issuance of the A through F ratings under 2023 rule is pending and subject to change. The first section of the TAPER is student performance, and in the spring of 2023, BISD students outperformed the state average for STAR exams in all performance levels on 5 assessments and in overall mathematics at the approaches and meets grade level. Additionally, the district outperformed the state at approaches grade level in 6th grade math, 7th grade reading, and overall reading and ELA. And the reading was an accomplishment. This is our first time that we've exceeded the state in any one of those areas in 7th grade reading, so that was a great accomplishment. The next 2 sections of the TAPER include rates for attendance, graduation, and dropouts, as well as the college, career, and military readiness reports. These are lagging indicator reports, meaning that the data included in the TAPER came from the 2021-2022 school year. Since the inflated attendance rate in 2020 due to the COVID-19 closure, the district has struggled to regain pre-COVID attendance rates. However, campuses have been working hard to improve their attendance rate. This year, they're implementing a variety of creative initiatives ranging from additional PBIS points to classroom pizza parties that encourage and reward students for good attendance. The pictures and graphics you see on this slide highlight some of the ways that campuses are supporting high attendance. This slide presents an 8-year longitudinal look at both dropout and graduation rates. Not surprisingly, we experienced a spike in the dropout rate in 2021 as some of our most at-risk students did not return to school in the fall of 2020 following the COVID-19 shutdown. However, as you can see on the line graph, dropout rates have returned to pre-pandemic levels, and in 2022, they were 0.4% below the state rate of 2.2%. The graduation rate for 2022 was 89.5% compared to 89.7% for the state. Brazosport ISD continues to provide outstanding opportunities for students to earn CCMR credit. BISD offers a wide array of programs of study to students ranging from accounting and financial services to welding. The Brazosport High School CTE Center is moving toward completion, at which time it will join Brazosport High School CTE Center in offering learning opportunities in world-class facilities to students in career and technical education. We are grateful to our business partners who have donated more than $5.5 million to our CTE Major Giving campaign. The final section of the TAPER, student and staff information, is based on data from the 2022-2023 school year, or last year. As you can see on this graphic, enrollment increased slightly last year. District student demographics are somewhat comparable to state student demographics. The table at the top of the slide provides you with the 2022-2023 percentages of our major population groups compared to the state. BISD's percentages are reflected in the blue columns and the state's by the red. The percentage of economically disadvantaged students decreased by 3.3% in 2023 to 68.4%. That percentage, however, is 4.3% above the state average. In 2022, the number of emergent bilingual students began a post-pandemic climb that is continuing into this year. Emergent bilingual enrollment is almost equal to pre-pandemic levels. However, the percentage of emergent bilingual students has increased from 12.8% in 2022 to 13.8% in 2024, or 1 full percentage point. percentage of students identified as receiving services through special education also continues to grow. The state rate for 2023 was 12.6%, while the BISD rate was 15.4%. BISD exceeded the 2022 rate for the identification of gifted and talented students by 0.4% with a 2023 rate of 11.3%. BISD's rate for gifted and talented students is 3.1% higher than the state's average. The number of teachers increased in 2023. Teacher counts were almost equal to pre-COVID numbers. Increased numbers of teachers meant that the teacher-to-student ratio declined last year. The BISD teacher-to-student ratio continues to be well below that of the state. BISD teachers continue to be among the highest paid in the state thanks to the generous support of our Board of Trustees. BISD teacher pay continues to trend above the state average. The information on this slide is based strictly on salaries. When the various stipends we offer are factored in, the average salary is much higher. Teacher turnover rates continue to rise across the state. BISD experienced a 3.3% increase last year, but our increase was still lower than that of the state, which was 3.7%. The 2020-2021 PEAMS Actual Financial Report is the final financial report for the 2020-2021 school year, and it compares district revenues and expenditures to those of the state for the same year. This year, our district once again earned the state's highest financial rating of superior in the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas, or FIRST. Next is the District Accreditation Report, or Status Report. A district receives one of 4 possible accreditation ratings. That top rating is accredited, which Brazosport ISD received again last year thanks to the hard work and dedication of our teachers, campus and district leaders, and support staff who ensure that BISD continues to set the standard for educational excellence. Each year, we are required to report on the progress campuses are making toward accomplishing their 2024 Campus Improvement Plan performance objectives. Data used for this report came from the second quarter review of the Campus Improvement Plans. 81.1% of Campus Improvement Plan strategies have either been accomplished or considerable progress has been made. The full report is included in your board book. The annual report must also include the district's special education determination status. The special education determination status is based on the results of the state's Results-Driven Accountability System, or RDA report, that is issued in the fall. In the RDA system, a program receives one of 4 possible determination levels based on the performance of students served by that program. Determination level 1 means the program met requirements. Determination level 2 means the program needs assistance. Determination level 3 means the program needs intervention, and determination level 4 means the program needs substantial intervention. Included in the considerations for assigning a determination level for special education is the performance of the program on the state performance plan indicators. The district's special education program received a perfect score on the state plan. The determination level for special education this year is needs assistance. This is the result of the disproportionality for special education students assigned to out-of-school suspension and expulsion for less than or equal to 10 days. That's an area we've already been addressing, and that we will continue to address through awareness and training. We will submit a strategic support plan to TEA this Friday, articulating the strategies the district put in place to address the significant disproportionality finding. Texas statute requires each district to publish a report on school safety. BISD publishes this report on our website under required postings. There were a total of 62 incidents that met the statutory definition of a criminal offense. All of them were a felony controlled substance. All of them. So far this year, that number has decreased to 3. BISD has in place prevention and intervention policies to help prevent criminal offenses occurring. The district also offers campus-level training to students and staff in violence awareness and prevention, bullying awareness and prevention, and character education. Each BISD campus has a crisis intervention team whose role it is to identify, assess, and implement appropriate measures with individuals whose behavior raises concerns for potential criminality. BISD offers campus-level counseling supports to students, and community resources are available for counselors to use when referring students who are in crisis for additional intervention. BISD provides a remarkable number of programs and activities to support all students, particularly those in crisis or with behavioral challenges. The list you see on this slide are just a few of the 80 different programs, 80 of them, and activities that support student safety and well-being. The entire list can be viewed on the district's website as part of the 2023 School Safety Report. The report of 2020-2021 high school graduates' enrollment and academic performance in Texas public higher education in fiscal year 2022 features the grade point average, or GPA, earned by class of 2021 graduates who attended public 4-year and 2-year higher education in Texas during fiscal year 2020-2021. For each student, the grade points and college-level semester credit hours earned by a student in the fall of 2021, spring of 2022, and summer of 2022 are added together and averaged to determine the GPA. 2 years ago, 437 members of the class of 2021, or 51.7%, started on a path to higher education the first year out of high school. 52% of the students who attended either a 4-year or 2-year public institution in Texas had a GPA of 2.5 or higher. The final report highlights the progress the district is making toward accomplishing the House Bill 3 goals set by the Board of Trustees in the summer of 2020. BISD students exceeded the 2023 performance target in reading, but not in math or CCMR. The implementation and monitoring of the mathematics curriculum and Tier 1 priorities remains a major focus this year, with regular classroom walkthroughs and with math-focused professional development. To address the number of seniors still lacking CCMR credit, seniors now have to first earn their CCMR credit before they can be given an off period. The 2023 Annual Performance Report provides evidence that district initiatives are effective in improving student outcomes. While there remain opportunities for improvement, there can be no doubt that the district is continuing to move in the right direction in our pursuit to graduate each student to be future ready. This concludes the public hearing on the 2023 Annual Performance Report. All of the Annual Performance Report documents will be uploaded to the district website under the required postings by the end of this week. Since this is a public hearing, I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions the board or the audience may have.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, go back on the third slide, the check marks.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I see that we definitely have exceeded the state. My only concern is the state numbers went down, and so it's good that we're trying to maintain above the state, but we certainly can aim higher than the state. That's one of the things that's good. I mean, we have to have something to compare with, but it's good to see the first 4 lines there. But grade, obviously, we have some work to do in. So, I also looked at the ECOD, and I was kind of pleased on the reading, especially. It was, I guess, last year 82, this year 80. Last year, 4th grade, 81, and this year is 85. So that's a nice highlight right there. The fact that that's a group that probably needs the most help from the standpoint of making sure the reading skills are there. So, of course, I always look at the masters. Of course, sorry, but that's it. So anyway, we have some work to do on that one.
Yes, sir.
But I think the trend is in the right direction, but I'm sure we can continue to push for that one, so that's a good part. You mentioned the turnover. Our turnover is up, but it's interesting, the last 3 years, 13-2, 15-4, 18-7 for us, but the state's been 14-17, 21, so
Yes.
that's a good sign.
It is.
I like that sign, you know, as far as the turnover rate is, you know, even though it's increasing, you know, it's well below the state, and that's a good one to be below, you know, as opposed on that one. So,
And we're below their trend line.
yeah, and another interesting part is that our experience with teachers in the district is pretty level at like 7.4 to 7.6, which I thought was, and the state is pretty level too, at 7.2. So basically we're retaining a little bit, even with, you know, quote, a lot of the retirements that we've had. So the experience level is definitely maintaining. So I think that's good. Wanted to highlight that. Talked about the teacher-student ratio. That figure, does that include our apprentices numbers? You know, because basically we have a nice co-teach arrangement, and for the most part, the observations I've had is they're really contributing greatly to the classroom. So I don't know. I'm sure that's not reported in the paper report.
It is not.
It is not. It's just contracted teachers, correct?
Yes, P's code 087.
P's code.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we have a little better situation by having those
Oh, yeah.
coaches with them, so that's even better. So also always look at the instructional staff. So basically we're a little lower than the state, you know, so we're 63 and 64 the last couple of years, and they're at 65 and 65, so I like that indication as far as having, you know, instructional staff versus, you know, the other group that's needed, but the numbers are still pretty good, so yeah, I like the report. I think it's good. For those who didn't have a chance to look at the, I would like to point out, I don't think you can show it, but the glossary.
Oh, yeah.
It is quite enamoring. Is it 48 pages of glossary stuff?
It's the biggest glossary I've ever seen.
It's amazing. I gave up. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I got everything.
It's for that person who can't sleep.
Yeah.
Just to tell you, but it is helpful if you, the key to using the glossary, if you ever happen to look at it, is that you're looking at a table and I don't understand it, go find it in the glossary.
And it's there. You know,
It's there. Trust me. It's
Yeah.
not always understandable, but it's
No,
there.
it's only 47 pages, but I always thought that coming from industry, the acronyms, but education, you know, it's a whole different language. It's a whole, and the same words, or the same letters, anyway. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Appreciate it. I think I like a good report.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins.
Any other comments from the board? From the audience? All right, hearing none, then we will close the public hearing. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, sir.
Next item that we have on our agenda is our consent agenda. At this time, are there any items that the board wishes to pull from the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, then do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Atkins, seconded by Mr. Reinhardt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. All right, the consent agenda passes. Next item that we have are action items. Our first action item will be our instruction calendar 2024, 2025, and 2025, 2026. Ms. Amy Pope, public comments will be allowed before a vote is taken on each of the action items. Ms. Pope?
Good evening, Superintendent Massey, Board President Howard, and board members. In accordance with Board Policy EB Legal, it is my pleasure to present the recommended 2024-2025 and 2025-2026 instructional calendar. Development of the calendar began with input from cabinet principals and other district leaders. The ideas proposed by these individuals were taken to a calendar meeting in January. The committee utilized that information to develop 3 different calendars. Among the 13 committee members, there were representatives from Freeport, Clute, and Lake Jackson. as well as from elementary, intermediate, and high schools. During the development process, these highly qualified professionals focused on the guiding question, what are the best calendar decisions to support quality instruction, including the prioritization of addressing huge instructional gaps and balanced semesters. They also reviewed the many factors to be considered when creating an instructional calendar, as listed on this slide. In addition, the committee prioritized having staff start on a Monday no sooner than August 5th, students starting no sooner than a Wednesday during the week of August 12th, and finishing the school year prior to the end of May. There was also an effort to place student holidays on Fridays when possible and have at least 3 school days in a week during weeks that have holidays. Staff feedback was collected, and 605 district and campus staff members responded to the surveys. Of all the 605 votes, 76.7% preferred calendar B. Calendar A was the second choice at 16.4%, and calendar C was 6.9%. Many comments showed appreciation for the PD in September to look at data and plan for the year, appreciation for credit for safe schools as an exchange day, and of course, the fall break. We also surveyed parents again this year. This survey allowed parents to indicate their preference between options and share their comments. There were 845 participants. Based on this data, 73.2% of parents preferred calendar B, which aligned with teacher preferences for calendar B. Their comments were very centered around being able to spend more time with their children, including the fall break. I had to add my favorite comment from a very smart dad. When asked why he chose this calendar, he responded, "My wife told me to." We created a new category for those who are both staff and parents. There were 267 participants. Based on this data, 79% of participants preferred calendar B, which aligned with the 2 previously mentioned groups. The comment that resonated with most of the participants was the last bullet on the slide. Calendar B breaks up the school year 4 times and gives the students and staff time off to spend with family. I believe having breaks like this in the school year will prevent burnout from staff and students, and I think that's important. It would also lead to better mental health. The 3 drafts, the staff survey results, and parent input was presented to the District Educational Improvement Committee, consisting of district and campus representatives, as well as parents, community, and business representatives. After discussion, the DEIC voted on which calendar they felt best met the instructional needs of BISD students. Draft B was the preferred calendar by 94% of DEIC members. After discussion, the DEIC voted on which I went one too fast. Here are the highlights of calendar B. Campus staff began working on August 5th, and school begins for students on Wednesday, August 14th. Students will have a fall break beginning on October 14th. The teachers will also have a 3-day break beginning October 16th. Winter break begins on Monday, December 23rd, and staff returns on January 6th to a professional development day, followed by a teacher preparation day, and students return on January 8th. Spring break will be the week of March 10th to the 14th, at the same time as Brazosport College. And the school year ends for students on Thursday, May 22nd, and for campus staff on Friday, May 23rd, prior to the Memorial Day weekend. This calendar is presented to you as best meeting the instructional need of students in Brazosport Independent School District. Due to the similarities in the 2024, 2025, and 2025-2026 calendar structure, along with the knowledge of staff and parents' positive response to the already presented calendar, it was requested to bring the 2025-2026 school calendar to also be voted on. Approving and posting 2 school year instructional calendars provides both staff and parents the opportunity to plan in advance. As mentioned, these calendar days are exactly the same as the previously presented calendar. Easter is the only variable that moved from the end of April in 2025 to this calendar at the beginning of April in 2026. It is the recommendation of administration that the board approve the 2024, 2025, and 2025-2026 BISD instructional calendars as presented. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Anyone from the board? Any questions, comments?
Just a comment. First of all, I'm glad we were able to squeeze in a fall break. I think that would be good for a lot of people. And two, I appreciate the fact that we're doing two. I want us to keep on that same cycle of always adding a year to that and not waiting in 2 years to do it again. Let's just approve the following year every year so that people can plan. I get probably 5 calls a year, usually around Christmas time, wanting to know when I can book summer vacations so they can get all that done. So it'd be good to be 2 years in advance and be done with it, and people can plan accordingly. So I hope we keep on that same schedule. But I appreciate it.
Any other comments?
Well, along those lines with the 2-year schedule, the disadvantage is it's not flexible. There's no flexibility. The advantage is no flexibility. So, you know, it's, normally I guess there's not a lot of changes, so I don't think, I was concerned about the 2-year from the standpoint of, something gonna change, that we're gonna change, because also, now that we have the October break for the next 2 years, there's no backing away from that, so it's a done deal for remaining time, so. I guess the only concern that I saw, or asked, is that calendar B actually has less days for students, and then, that really, I know we the whole purpose is to make sure that we have enough instructional days, and I assume 166 days is well past the minutes, 75,000 plus, so, that was the one thing that both of them, B is less than either one of them, so, that was kind of jumped out at me. Do we anticipate, with the fall break, I mean, that's what, 7 weeks, I guess, after school starts, 8 maybe. We talk about the summer slide, but that's when we're just getting into October. Do you think there's any concerns about having that break at that point, in the learning cycle? I assume not, but I had to ask the question.
I think October tends to be your lowest attendance and your highest discipline. So I think teachers are spending a lot of time working with the students that are disruptive, and so I think the hope is maybe that break will be a break for everybody, so that maybe there will be a restart, and maybe it'll break up some of the typical October concerns. Because, and that's across the state, that's not just BISD. Like, if you talk to any district, October and February, high discipline, low attendance.
And I guess we had 845 parents responded, or input?
I think it was 846.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And that's not including the ones that are our staff parents
Right,
as well.
right. It's a shame that, we don't get that much more. I mean, people will say, we want to be involved, and here's the chance to really have something that really affects your, out of 11,000 students. So anyway, that was just an observation, not a good one. I guess the only thing that, if you look at Mr. Redden's district improvement plan, some of the root causes include lack of time in the classroom, so that's what prompted my 166 days. So anyway, yeah, I'm fine with the 2 years now, but like I say, there's no turning back for the October break. So once that's done, so, and it's going to rain that week anyway. So. Fair week.
It always
Yeah, so just thought I'd throw that in.
I know it's a positive all the way around, but it's going to enhance the need for teachers to produce more in a shorter time. And so we need to be aware of that. We need to be able to monitor our teachers, give them the assistance, the resources they need to expedite, if you will, their teaching, because they've been used to having X number of days to teach, and they're be a tough situation the first year, perhaps the second year will be better, but we need to just be sure we stay on top of that, because, having been in the classroom, I know what it's like when you go from one learning situation to another. We need to keep that in mind.
Anyone else? Audience? Any comments about our calendar? All right, hearing none, then, we have do you hear a motion to approve the calendar as presented by the administration?
I'll make a motion.
All right. Moved by Mr. Dunn, do I have a second? Second by Ms. Sayes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. All right, carries. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it. Next item that we have on our agenda is our interlocal agreement between Brazosport ISD and our local municipalities for the law enforcement services. Mr. J. Whitehead.
Thank you. Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy CKEA Legal, it is my pleasure to present the interlocal agreement between Brazosport ISD and local municipalities for law enforcement services. Please refer to the agreement attached in your board book. House Bill 3 requires that the board must ensure that at least one armed security officer is present during regular school hours at each campus. Additionally, the security officers must be a school district police officer, a school resource officer, or a commissioned peace officer employed as a security personnel under Texas Education Code 37081. The Brazosport ISD Board of Trustees has met and exceeded the requirement of staffing an armed security officer at all BISD campuses. However, an officer may become ill or personal situation pull him or her off the campus for a period of time. If an officer is out, then the campus may be difficult to cover without additional resources to pull from. The solution being presented tonight is to enter into an interlocal agreement with our local law enforcement agencies to cover absences or temporary openings. Because of our established excellent relationship with other law enforcement agencies in the county, we can utilize resources, specifically officers, to fill in as needed. The interlocal agreement outlines the terms and services, so we are open and transparent while partnering with agencies when using their officers to cover our campuses. The administration recommends approving the interlocal agreement between Brazosport ISD and local municipalities for law enforcement services. And at this time, I would be happy to answer any questions concerning the agreement.
I'm going to assume that you've met with all the local municipalities to set this in place prior to presenting it for approval.
Let's say all. We've met with Freeport, Include, and some of the sheriff's departments and discussed this, but it would have to go to them for them to agree and bind in to do this with us. This is our portion before it goes to them. We're not binding them by any way at this point. We're just establishing the request to use their officers, and they have to agree to us using their officers.
Is there a intent to approach the other cities like Jackson, those folks too, or?
Absolutely. Yes.
So they'll all be asked, everyone will be in.
Yes, Chief Nichols has already reached out to establish that, and we've got response back already from Freeport Include, but not from Lake Jackson yet. So we anticipate this being hopefully a small need, not a large number of officers, but certainly where we have our two high schools, Include and Freeport, we would like to establish it within those cities.
These are typically off-duty officers, not in their normal duties as representing the municipality. This is when we have a need and they have officers that are off.
Yes.
To come and cover.
Yes.
They're not leaving their.
No.
No, I knew that. I just.
Yes, sir.
have a pool of officers from each department that will maybe train at some point prior to school starting, that they know kind of the ins and outs of certain schools, or how are we gonna manage that?
Yeah, we already have some of that in place where we do our alert training, active shooter trainings, and they join us for those trainings, so, and they also eat lunch free in our schools. So we do have officers who've been in our schools. Some are much more comfortable being in the schools than others, so it would be based on those individuals and chief reaching out to their chiefs for that.
I know we're rotating officers now, around the district throughout, which I think maybe each month or quarter, they're switching, they're rotating, aren't they now, by school?
They were rotating,
District
every
beginning
9
year.
weeks.
Yeah.
Every 9 weeks, yeah.
And so, since ours are trained in multiple schools, is the plan maybe to use one school as our sub-school, so we move and kind of move our officers to other campuses for the day that someone else is missing, and maybe they only have to get familiar with one campus or two campuses?
Yeah, possibly, and probably more of a focus on the elementary with the fill-in officer, because the level of interaction there.
Yep. 'Cause it'd be good if they didn't have to learn a bunch of different schools every time, and so if we could designate maybe one or two schools and move our officers off those campuses and use these guys as subs at a few. Elementary probably is the best one, because that's really true security guard.
I'm sorry, Scott, go ahead.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Just an idea.
Have we fulfilled the positions for the armed security guards on the campuses where we didn't have police officers yet?
Yes, sir, we have 4 level 3 security officers at 4 different elementaries currently in place.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments?
Yeah, we don't have the college, even though they don't have that many officers, but I wonder, that makes sense. They're more familiar with the educational institution, if we should inquire if they may be interested, from a standpoint. And I was just really thinking of Mass River, because, because this is more of an emergency, they're much closer than the PD, maybe the Ridgewood or Clute. But that's an emergency thing, not so much the fill-in that you're talking about, so. Sir. Yeah, I think, I wouldn't see why any of the municipalities would object to this, but you never know.
Anyone else? Audience?
Move for approval.
All right, hearing none, been moved for approval by Mr. Reinhardt. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dunn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. All right, that carries as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item that we have under our action items is a class size exception for Matthew Elementary School, Ms. Cunningham.
Good evening, Mr. Massey and school board members and audience. In accordance with board policy, EEB local and in alignment with our district goal, BISD campuses will be safe and conducive to learning. I'm requesting that the Board of Trustees approve class size exception waiver for Griffith Elementary School. The district seeks to maintain a 22-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio in grades K through 4. And prior to the approval of the local innovation plan, the district was required to submit maximum class size exception waivers to TEA at different times throughout the school year. With fluctuating classroom enrollment counts that are common to our elementary schools, classes would be approved for a state waiver and then go back down to 22-to-1. The local innovation plan provision for class size exception provides the district with the flexibility to monitor class sizes for a longer period of time before determining to seek an exception from the Board of Trustees. The district is now exempt from the state law requiring a district to seek a waiver when classes exceed 22-to-1 ratio for 30 days. Under the district's innovation, should a class size exceed 22-to-1 for more than 35 days, the Board of Trustees must approve the exception, as we've already done once this school year. Options to address classrooms that exceed 22-to-1 maximum class size for more than 35 days include hiring a teacher and add another section. Also adding a certified teacher to the class to create a co-teach environment. Also, we could add a paraprofessional in accordance with district staffing ratios. This would also require the Board of Trustees to grant class size exception. The advantages of adding a paraprofessional, or in this case, an apprentice, is that the teacher remains with the students that he or she has had all school year. And obviously, the disadvantages are the cost of the position and what we do with the paraprofessional if the class size drops down to 22 to 1. By being exempted from the 22 to 1 requirement, students are allowed to remain with their teacher and classmates with whom they began the school year, which fosters the community and stability needed to support increased student learning. As you know, we're already in February, so breaking up that class would be challenging at this time and moving students. Griffith Elementary School at this time has a 4th grade classroom that has exceeded the 22 to 1 ratio for 35 days. As noted, a resident apprentice is currently assigned to the class and will remain supporting this class if the exception is granted by the Board of Trustees. It is the opinion of the principal that continuing with the current instructional arrangement will render the least disruption to the student learning, and that the likelihood of the ratio eventually could drop below 23 to 1, back down to 22. It is the administration's recommendation that Board of Trustees approve a class size exception for Griffith Elementary School 4th grade classroom that is currently above the 22 to 1 class size ratio. At this time, I am happy to answer any questions.
From the board?
How many students did they actually handle?
23.
23?
May have to have 22.
So are there many transfers?
I'm sorry?
Are there many transfers in that 4th grade group?
I think she said there were a couple, some of them that started the school year and then moved, so they hated to move them off the campus later in the year.
So, of course, we're not accepting any new ones.
No, definitely not accepting any new.
Well, of course, does our intervention district of innovation plan, does it highlight what we were talking about, adding a pair or something like, are we tied into that, as far as the district of innovation plan, about the solutions that we can go for a longer period?
For our solution,
Yeah.
like,
Paraprofessional, something like that, okay. So, because I was concerned until I saw that we do have the apprentice.
right,
That,
we have an apprentice that's been in that position.
yeah, so, that really solves this problem in my
Right.
opinion, so I'm happy with this one. Oh, not happy with it, I'll go with it.
Well, good experience for our apprentice as well.
Oh,
Mhm.
exactly.
So that was the purpose for our purpose in the first place with the apprentice program, was to have this kind of situation in case we needed it, so.
This is like a take on your ghost school that we've been working on forever. So it's just like the next level.
It just showed up.
Just showed up.
Just slid in there.
Slid right in. Any other questions, comments from the board? From the audience? All right, hearing none, then we have a recommendation from the administration. Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the administration recommendation for the class size exemption.
Second. We move to have a second. Second by Mr. Schwartner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. All right, that carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Rita. Next item that we have on our agenda are our reports. Our first report is Rebecca Kelly, the 2024 budget update and 2025 budget development calendar and planning process. It's that time already.
It's hard to believe that it is. So good evening. The following presentation is in alignment with Board Policy CE and in alignment with our district goal that Brazosport ISD will exercise fiscal responsibility to ensure financial strength and secure the resources to equip and maintain quality facilities and educational programming. Tonight, it is my pleasure to provide an update on the current 2024 budget and also begin the process of developing the 2025 budget. The 2024 budget was adopted with a $6.6 million deficit. That was even after making a net reduction of $3.7 million which are highlighted in the top right-hand corner as a reminder of what we did reduce last year at this time for the 2024 budget. The adopted budget did not include a compensation increase, as we anticipated that the governor would call another special session to pass new legislation to address school funding and teacher compensation, after the Texas legislature failed to pass anything meaningful for public schools because they were derailed with a fight over vouchers for private schools. The BISD Board of Trustees approved a 2.5% raise with strategic adjustments to the teacher pay schedule, with an average teacher increase of 3.5%, and that was in October after the budget had been adopted. So this compensation increase in October had a fiscal note of $3.1 million. So the amended budget deficit is now at $9.1 million. The adopted budget is based on projected enrollment and average daily attendance. We are halfway through the school year now, so we have a more accurate number of what those estimates are. And so while enrollment is down about 275 students from this time last year, that equates to about a $1.7 million loss in revenue. However, I budgeted based on average daily attendance at 10,450, and our current enrollment factored by daily attendance is currently trending at about 10,356, which means the budget impact is $580,000 of less revenue. The 313 revenue calculations were finalized in October and came in just slightly less than we had anticipated. And so that was offset by an increase in interest earnings, which are projected to be about $750,000 stronger than budgeted. We do have an appeal in response to an across-the-board reduction in our federal SHARS reimbursement that, as it stands right now, could result in about $1 million loss in program revenue, and that would be for this year only. The state is having to pay back funds to the federal government from a prior year, and they're taking it from program funds in the current year. And so all of those factors total together brings our current projected deficit to $10.3 million. We do have $3 million in budgeted contingency funds, as well as several other budget to actual variances on the expenditure side. So I would anticipate that the actual deficit would be about $6 million this year. Our unassigned fund balance is $53.9 million, and the TEA optimum is around $37.5 million. And so presented here is the updated 5-year revenue projections. You also have this printed at your table, so that it's sometimes very hard to see. A few things to note. The third column includes the current year changes that we just reviewed on the previous slide. And then the 2025 through 2028 projections include a flat ADA, a flat M&O taxable value, and the tax rate compression is based on the state projected maximum compressed tax rate. So I try to keep everything as straight line as possible so you could see the difference as it relates to current year spending. I'll also decrease the 2025 projected 313 revenues by about $1 million, and then another $500,000 in 2026, which is where it should level off and hold pretty steady through 2028. These projections do assume that current spending remains flat, which means if we do not reduce spending and the state does not pass legislation to increase the basic allotment, then we will be in a net position short of the TEA optimum fund balance by the end of 2025. And of course, all of this post the red line is based on current law projections, and they could call another special session, and then obviously the following year we would be headed into the next regular session, and anything could happen. So these are just for projection and planning purposes only, and really for you to see the impact that current spending would have to fund balance if we don't make adjustments moving forward until the state provides some type of increase to school funding. So I do want to take a few minutes and slides to revisit some information that helps bring clarity to why Brazosport ISD, along with many other districts in the state, are faced with limited resources to meet the educational needs of our districts. A high-quality and well-funded public education system is essential to the future of Texas. when it comes to state spending on education headed into the last legislative session, Texas ranked in the bottom 10 states in per-student funding and was trailing the national average by over $4,000. So headed into this past legislative session, the Texas economy was seeing record high growth. The state had over a $30 billion surplus that they had to appropriate during that legislative session for this current biennium. The state of Texas controls the maximum tax rate that a school district can compress by tying it to the funding formulas. The funding formulas, which we'll talk about in just a minute, are set for each school district based on the number of students and student groups served. While Brazosport ISD has decreased the tax rate by over 30 cents in 5 years, the amount of property taxes a homeowner or businesses is paying was still going up. I hear it very often that I'm paying more in taxes, so how is it that BISD has a deficit budget? And the answer to that is because Brazosport ISD doesn't get to keep that money. It is recaptured by the state of Texas. Brazosport ISD has paid over $200 million to the state in recapture since the inception of the recapture system back in 1999. So the current state funding system is set to collect more in local property taxes, which has been used to reduce the state share of spending for public education, which is shown on the bar graph in the bottom left. So the state used $18 billion of the $30 billion that they had to compress the tax rate. So in this year, Brazosport ISD will not be subject to recapture. And while that's great for property tax and it's certainly some much needed relief, it is not new money for schools. That $18 million was not an investment in public schools. The amount of money that Brazosport ISD is entitled to is calculated based on the number of students enrolled, adjusted by the number and average daily attendance, times the basic allotment, plus some additional funding for some of those weighted groups like special education services, which we'll also talk about in a minute. The basic allotment was last increased in 2019, which during that time period, since that time period, the Texas Comptroller has reported inflationary increases well over 14.5%, leaving school districts faced with reducing educational services to cover increases in costs of operating. Just for reference, if the basic allotment had been tied to the inflation index, the 2023 basic allotment would have needed to be $6,572, which would equate to about a $4.1 million increase in additional revenue to the district. These are some actual increases in costs from our Brazosport ISD budgets over the 2019 through the 2023 time period. Fuel for buses is up 43%. Utilities have increased more than 13%. We have been forced to reduce property insurance coverage because rates for the same coverage have trended upwards of a 59% increase, which would have equated to about a $1.5 million budget increase. We have increased our police department, spending 59% more since 2019. This past session, the state legislatures were so proud to share that they passed new legislation for funding for school safety. Well, that came out to $358,000 to Brazosport ISD. Previously, we were getting $110,000. So there's a $238,000 more in funding, and currently we spend $1.8 million to provide a police officer at every single campus in the ISD. So a far cry from adequately funding safety and security. This chart shows the number of teacher positions in green, charted with enrollment trends to calculate the student-to-teacher ratio, shown on the orange line. Since 2020, we are down 963 students, which, based on current basic allotment, equates to $5.9 million. So 963 fewer students, and as Mr. Redden shared earlier, the number of teachers pre-COVID is still relatively flat. By my calculation, we've actually reduced 16 teachers. So based on the average teacher salary, that's about $1 million less in spending, or 16 less teachers for 963 less students. And then the average teacher salary has increased $2,030, which has a cost of about $1.7 million a year. So when you combine just these three factors, it creates a funding gap of $6.6 time frame that the state has not increased the basic allotment. So we talked a little bit about special education during the legislative session, but I want to revisit it because it does create a compounding funding gap and is another example of where the state has failed to pass any meaningful legislation for school finance. Current funding formulas for special education services are based on formulas set decades ago, based on how much time a student spends in a particular classroom setting. The majority of students today with disabilities are spending most of their day in a regular classroom setting versus a segregated classroom setting based on their disability. Providing inclusive opportunities aligned with evidence-based best practices requires additional support, and the outdated funding formulas do not adequately fund for the true cost of educating students with disabilities in today's learning environment. The U.S. Department of Education investigated and concluded that Texas violated federal law by failing to ensure students with disabilities were properly evaluated and provided with an adequate public education. The impact of that was that the Texas Education Agency's corrective action plan has resulted in an increase in evaluation services, which is also not currently factored into the outdated funding formulas. The graph to the right shows the increase in students requiring special education services in Brazosport ISD as a percentage of the total enrollment. You can see that number has continued to increase from just over 7% in 2017 to now over 13%, which has actually doubled the number of students in Brazosport ISD receiving special education services in 7 years. So in Brazosport ISD last school year, the current special education funding formula generated $11.3 million in revenue. So that's that weighted formula, right, on top of the basic allotment. And the associated cost to the general fund for providing these individualized services to students with disabilities cost us $15.8 million. So that's a $4.5 million gap in funding. And so the chart on the left shows what this looks like at the state level, and that gap totals $1.8 billion at the state level. And so we do get about $2.2 million of federal revenue, but we also spend all of that on top of the $15.8 million out of the general fund. So huge funding gap for special education. Also, I'd like to thank Mr. Atkins. I know he has a report later today, but he spent some time in D.C. Around this topic, and so certainly something that's getting national attention at this point. So thank you for your advocacy. All right, so balancing the budget is a 7-month process. We kicked that off with principals and directors on February 2nd. This is a summary of the calendar that I've placed at your table, and so you can review that in more detail. On the calendar at your table, the items that pertain to the board's involvement are highlighted in gray, and they're also on the right-hand side of this presentation. So today is February 19th, and we'll get that kicked off. I will release a guiding principles survey later this week to both the board and to our district department directors and principals. And so we'll present the results of that survey at the March meeting. Also at the March meeting, HR will present a report on compensation and pay structures, and then hopefully we will have a compensation plan presented for approval at the April board meeting. I'll provide regular updates, May, June, July, if needed, in preparation for the August 5th special board meeting, which is where we'll have the budget workshop. And then we'll adopt the tax rate and the budget at the regular August board meeting. So establishing budget priorities is important as we are faced with making reductions to align spending with available revenue. We must remain committed to our vision of setting the standard for educational excellence and our mission to graduate all students to be future ready, as well as our district goals and our belief statements. We must ensure that the reductions are made through attrition to avoid a position of having to implement a reduction in force, and that the reductions that we have to make have the least amount of impact on student achievement and done in a way that's transparent to ensure that we maintain the trust of our stakeholders. The guiding principles budget survey will go out this week. This is a report only and no action is needed, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have at this time.
nobody to the northwest is gonna do anything positive for schools, is that correct?
I would glad to testify.
Any other comments?
Thank you.
Probably depends on the election.
Yeah, the election
In May.
is the key.
Yeah, elections in May will make a difference.
Or I guess primaries, not, primary election, primary is March, right?
Yeah.
Next
We may
report.
see another session then.
Our next report is our bond plan and construction update from, Mr. Dornay.
Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy CB Local, it is my pleasure to present the 2019 Bond Program Planning and Construction Update. As of February 16th, we have total POs issued of $250.9 million and 86.15% completed or in progress. This is the rendering of the front addition for Brazosport High School CTE, and it is rapidly looking just exactly like that. This is the slide that shows the phasing plan. We just had a meeting last week with some of the department staff on how we transition the last day of school, so we can clear out the yellow area that you see there, and so the contractors can go in and renovate that, tear down the back portion of the existing building, which is shown in pink, and also move into the new shop building in the front addition. This is a drone shot that was taken, I think this was taken last Thursday. You can see that we now have a complete roof on the new shop building. And also all of our paving is in place. You can see the drive that now goes all the way around. And this shows the front addition as well as the shop in the back. This is a closer view at the front entry of the front addition. You can see the red metal tiles, and it's red and gray, and then there will be red on the underside as well. It looks really good. That's a closer view of the front entry where all of the yellow that you see, which is Mr. Reinhardt's favorite part of this building, is the red underneath, all the way down will be, it'll really show up when you drive by. And that same metal panel transitions to the inside, into the vestibule. That's another shot. And this is a closer view of the shop building. The overhang will eventually go all the way to the end of the building. So we've got that leave out right there till we tear down that back part of the building, of the existing building. And this is a view from the field house side. And that's showing the area in between the existing building and the new shop building. This is a ground view from the front entry. And that's inside the security vestibule. And that's the main corridor. Looking towards the existing building, you can see the wood in the back where the walls, I think we talked about this last month, the walls were removed over the Christmas break. And so we'll have a connection very, very soon. This is inside Vet Tech, looking back towards the floral classroom. And then that's standing in floral. You can see in the background the coolers. And that's out in the main corridor. To the right is the cosmetology. Flooring will start going in next week. And this is in cosmetology. To the left is where the wash stations will be, and then the styling stations over to the right. That's some styling stations. I think that's the proper term for those. I don't go to beauty shops anymore. I don't have any hair of it. This is in the cosmetology. All the stations are in the far background. There's the facial area to the right, and then the dispensary to the left. classroom. And now we're inside the shop building. This is moving along very well. We've got walls going up now, the new corridor starting to take shape, and it's going to be pretty impressive. We've got one of the two cranes that has been installed. It does not show up in this picture. You can see the corridor, you can see where the walls are starting to go up for the corridor over on the left-hand side. That on the right-hand side, this would be standing in the corridor where you see all the plumbing sticking out. That's the group restroom. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Questions?
Looking good, keep it coming.
Still on track?
Awesome
Yes,
job.
sir. All right. Looking great. Appreciate you.
As part of this, I will say, as part of this bond and upgrade at Brazosport High School, the new field house was rededicated today, and it's a real piece of quality there. We're very blessed to have that in both schools.
Next item that we have on our reports is the 23-24 District Improvement Plan, second quarter review. Mr. Redden?
Good evening again. In alignment with board policy BQ local and each district goal, it's my pleasure to deliver you the report on the second quarter progress made on the district improvement plan. You have a copy of the second quarter formative review in your board book. During each formative review, strategies that support the accomplishment of performance objectives are evaluated as discontinued, NA, which is a new term, which means no progress, some progress, considerable progress, and accomplished. This graphic illustrates the progress made toward accomplishing the intended outcomes during the second quarter. Specifically, 0% were discontinued, 7.2% there were no progress, and 7.2% had some progress, while 65.1% had considerable progress, and 20.5% were accomplished. I begin tonight's report with a look at some of the progress that was made under District Goal 1. District-level literacy specialists continued classroom walkthroughs during the second quarter to ensure that balanced literacy was being implemented with fidelity in every classroom. During the targeted observations, they observed an increased use in the workshop model. The workshop model includes guided reading, literacy stations, shared reading, and writing. During the second quarter, principals continued to emphasize and monitor their campus math and reading performance goals through the weekly newsletters, PLCs, and through monthly meetings. One strategy under the CCMR performance objective reads, BISD will partner with Brazosport College to assist families in filling out the FAFSA and to ensure there are clear transitional supports. The new FAFSA launched on December 31st, 2023. The lead counselors and dual credit counselors, along with the Director of Guidance and Counseling, met with the representatives from Brazosport College early in December to plan FAFSA workshops. Those workshops will be held this month at both campuses. Performance Objective 4 includes a strategy to provide accelerated instruction through the Brazos Success Academy. Since the beginning of school, BSA has graduated 56 kids. That is amazing. That is quite an accomplishment. Performance Objective 4 also includes strategies to provide accelerated instruction using tutorials. And during the final month, or January, of the second quarter, elementary campuses began targeted tutorials for students based on assessment data. There we are. Performance Objective 1 under District Goal 2 reads that the district will implement 10 or more strategies that ensure the health and safety of students and staff in all learning environments. Strategy 7 of these 10 strategies reads, the district will implement a substance abuse prevention program to include an e-cigarette prevention program in grades 7 through 12. BACODA, the Bay Area Council on Drugs and Alcohol, is currently providing prevention lessons through teen leadership classes at the high schools. Additionally, assistant principals have all received training on the substance abuse prevention plan for the district with the expectation that lessons from the Catch My Breath curriculum will take place in grades 6 through 12. Performance Objective 2 states that BISD will implement strategies that support the mental health and developmental needs of students. Campuses continued to expand their referral list for counseling service or resources during the last quarter, and the partnership with the Gulf Coast Center for Substance Abuse Counseling that is being piloted with BSA and LLC has been very successful. As a reminder, this program is of no charge to the district. Counseling Services is currently exploring the idea of expanding this program to the high school campuses. Campuses also continue to provide character education to students following the character trait focus from each month. Capturing Kids' Hearts remains an area of focus in the secondary schools, and social contracts are being used by secondary teachers to build relationships between themselves and their students. At the elementary level, campuses are focused on implementing the CHAMPS program of Capturing Kids' Hearts with the goal of improving Tier 1 student behaviors. Campus walkthroughs are showing evidence of CKH and CHAMPS at work on each of the campuses. At the end of the first semester, the district launched a middle of the year thought exchange to help in understanding how the year was going so far for parents and students, to identify positive aspects of each school's performance, and to identify where the focus this spring should be on efforts to enhance the overall experience for parents and students. 1,046 parents participated and provided 667 thoughts that received 10,137 ratings. Overall, responses were positive, including responses to the thought question. On the slide, the thought questions to the right, the engagement summary, and then the wordle in the middle were the results. It shows AI-generated results. The larger the word in this graphic, the more frequently it was used. Multiple choice questions were rated using a 0 through 10 scale. This allowed us to better refine parent responses. Any rating that was 6 or above was considered a favorable response. 80% of parents felt that their child had achieved the expected level of learning so far this year. 83% felt that the staff at their child's school worked hard to ensure their child was learning. 76% felt that their child's school kept them informed about activities, events, and volunteer opportunities throughout the first semester. 69% felt that their child's teacher kept them well informed about their child's progress and grades throughout the first semester. And 67% felt that the staff at their child's school shared helpful ideas for supporting their child's learning at home. We received excellent feedback from the survey regarding customer service, and it showed the frontline service provided by our campuses is improving. As we continue to work to better the customer service of frontline staff, the campuses where results were mixed will receive greater focus this spring. This year, the district began the BISD Frontline Star Award to recognize frontline staff who go above and beyond to provide outstanding customer service. BISD Technology is implementing activities that will improve the technology infrastructure and support BISD initiatives. They continue to implement activities to improve throughput across the district networks. Throughput is a measure of how many units of information a system can process in a given amount of time. As part of this initiative, fencing has been installed in the Velasco staff parking lot for project material and equipment, while Lightstream continues to engage with multiple cities in providing information and pulling permits for the project. The BIS team is working with DataVox to provide information regarding the new wide area network, and they are gathering a quote for equipment needed to support the network. Completion of this project will result in BISD owning our network instead of leasing it. Work on the district's command center is also continuing. JCI and BISD Technology met in December to review the automation of the Metasys platform. JCI provided an example of how the integration of BISD systems will look in Metasys, and JCI is currently working with vendors on getting additional items to integrate into the Metasys. The Language Acquisition Department continues to work hard to support content and language acquisition by our emergent bilingual students. The new bilingual parent liaison is working with elementary bilingual families, and she is coordinating with the bilingual campuses to support their needs. In addition, the district's bilingual specialist is supporting our 3rd through 6th grade bilingual students in all content classes. An ESL certification training was held in January for 40 teachers. seeking ESL certification, and the bilingual certification training is scheduled for this month. The Language Acquisition Department continues to provide teachers with reimbursement for earning their ESL certifications. During the second quarter, work continued in developing and retaining highly effective staff. New teachers are enrolled in the state-required House Bill 3 reading academies, and they continue to work through the academy content during the second quarter. They are currently on pace with state-required deadlines and should complete the academy in May. Meanwhile, returning teachers who previously completed the training are implementing what they learned in district pre-K through 4 classrooms. Early childhood specialists received updated training to enable them to better support early childhood classroom teachers and pass that training on to their teachers. Additionally, the Pre-K Guiding Coalition collaborated on ways to provide needed support to early childhood teachers. To support teacher recruitment, Brazosport ISD extended 43 offers into the apprenticeship program in January. The 43 apprentices included 16 internal candidates. The district also engaged with a new Related Training and Instruction, or RTI, partner starting in January 2024. Any partner that's engaged with BISD in the work of preparing apprentices to become teachers can provide them with the RTI they need. Those partners include the universities and the regional service centers with whom we are currently engaged. The district also executed an MOU to solidify our partnership with Reach University. Reach University is a nonprofit university that employs job-embedded learning to help communities grow their own talent. It was a busy second quarter, and quarter 3 is just as busy. I look forward to returning in April with a report on the third quarter progress. Since this is a report, no board action is required. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any clarifying questions you may have.
Questions from the board?
Just a thought I had when I looked through that, I find something new every time I read it, so. The root cause things, you probably know this off the top of your head, are they fairly consistent of what the root cause of us, having these plans, do they, I mentioned the one about the time in the classroom. Are they pretty much the same as if you pull them out and just list them?
Well, we actually do list them. We have a way I can run them for you, the problem statements and the root causes. So when we do our comprehensive needs assessment in May, in fact, we'll start in April. Different cabinet level owners of the goals will meet with a group of individuals consisting of district educational improvement council folks and others that they invite to be part of their team. As part of that, Mr. Atkins, what they do is they identify problem areas as part of the needs assessment, and then they do what's called a root cause analysis to drill down to the level to what is the root cause of this. So for each of those different groups, they come back to us then in their presentation, and typically we'll have 2 to 3 root causes of 2 to 3 different problems that they've identified that we need to address in the plan. So under goal 1, you're going to see the instructional curriculum instruction group, their root causes. They'll be different than what you see in goal number 2, which has to do with our classroom environments. Goal 3, of course, with marketing, and then goal 4 with finance and also technology, and last with the human resources side in goal number 5. So they're not going to be the same under every goal. They're going to be different, but they're going to reflect those root causes that were identified by the teams. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to just see those separately without all that.
Absolutely, and I can provide that for you, absolutely, to all of y'all. I can send that to Mr. Massey, and that's an easy report to pull.
Any other? Audience? All right, thank you, Mr. Reddick.
You bet.
Next report that we have from Mr. Brian Cole will be our student outcomes update.
Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy EH Local and District Goal, Brazosport ISD will provide a rigorous and relevant learning experience to ensure that every child will be future ready. It is my pleasure to present a student outcomes report related to college, career, military readiness, and early childhood literacy and numeracy goals. We will start this evening by looking at college, career, and military readiness. By reviewing our goals, changes to college, career, and military readiness, our current data, and our next steps. The student outcome goal for Brazosport ISD's college, career, and military ready graduates reads, the percentage of graduates that meet the criteria for CCMR will increase from 58% to 70% by August of 2026. The target for this school year's graduates is 66%. One of the changes the state made last year was changing what it takes to make an A in CCMR. Previously, it was at 60%, and it is now at 88%. So let's refresh ourselves on what they shared regarding this change. As I previously shared, under the original system, an A was set at 66 or 60% of graduates with CCMR readiness. Why 60%? The Texas Higher Education Strategic Plan has a goal that by 2030, at least 60% of Texans ages 25 to 34 will have a certificate or a degree. Thus, 60% of CCMR graduates equates to an A, which helps achieve this goal. So what is the new justification for making it at 88 now? The Texas Education Agency has data that indicates only 68% of college-ready students persist beyond 1 year in college. So they are now indicating that to hit the higher education goal of 60% by 2030, districts need to have 88% of students college-ready. So that's a 28 percentage point jump in 1 year. A colleague of mine from Wiley ISD put together this analysis of the impact of CCMR ratings for districts in the state of Texas. As you can see, this change over the course of 1 year shifts districts that currently have an A in CCMR to grades as low as a D for the equivalent level of performance. This change is was currently planned to go into effect for graduates from 2022. So it actually came out after retroactively applied to students that already graduated. So let's transition now to look at where we currently are as it relates to our current goal. This chart allows us to take a look at where this year's seniors were based on data that the Texas Education Agency released last summer, or this past summer. So based on data from the state shown in this chart, with the data from the 2023 school year, 32.8% of this year's seniors in the red box there, or last year's juniors, were CCMR ready at the end of 2023. This is 5 percentage points above the state, which is the tan line that you see there. As we explore the chart on this slide, which is our current data, you will see 3 columns on this chart. The middle column represents the data that TEA currently has for our 2023 seniors, and the final represents the percent of seniors that are college, career, military ready based on the most accurate real-time reflection at the campus level. You can see that Brazosport High School is currently reported at 58%, which is an increase of over 18 percentage points. Brazoswood is at 55%, which is an increase of over 20 percentage points. And Brazos Success Academy has increased by nearly 26 percentage points. You can see that between the start of this school year and now, our high schools have seen great growth in the percentage of CCMR seniors. We have grown over 21 percentage points as a district, with only about 12 percentage points to go before the end of the year to meet the goal, but we're hoping to get much further beyond that. We're only about 101 students away from the goal of 66%, and I will say this, I'm spoiling one of my future slides, but we have nearly every senior is scheduled in something that has the potential to make them college, career, military ready this year, so we're hoping for numbers much higher. As we look towards our next steps, we'll continue to conduct quarterly reviews with campuses to track progress and help provide any needed resources from the district. Campuses are tracking students individually to identify the best avenue to obtain CCMR status, and we are seeing many students continue to access dual credit through free tuition to achieve college, career, military readiness. Campuses are providing students with on-site TSI testing, and we are working to universally test our juniors this year as well. That allows students to meet college entrance requirements. Additionally, the Texas College Bridge, which is an online course for Brazosport College and some other colleges across the state of Texas. Our campuses and CTE department continue to work to identify students that may have previously missed an industry-based certification and opportunities to pass those as part of their current coursework. Additionally, after reviewing what other high-performing districts are doing to move the needle as it relates to college, career, military readiness, we now require that seniors are either college, career, military ready to enjoy all of their off periods, or are scheduled for something that will equip them to be college, career, military ready in order to have their off periods. This incentivizes students towards working towards these attainable targets that are meaningful for their future. Nearly every senior this year had something in their schedule that points towards college, career, military readiness completion. Additionally, the state is making it more difficult for IBCs, or industry-based certifications, to count for college, career, military readiness, as students need to have fully completed a program of study rather than just demonstrated success on an industry-based certificate. So now we are working to better align programs of studies and certifications with a focus on retaining students within those programs, but still making sure that they have flexibility to choose paths that interest them and support their future. In addition to our current seniors that are already ready for college readiness, we also have courses that will result in industry certifications by the end of the year. We also have students that are taking dual credit courses right now that can lead to college, career, military status, as well as advanced placement results that come in early July. So we will now turn our attention to early literacy and numeracy. We'll review our current goals along with performance data projections that are found in our screeners, as well as our middle of the year CBAs. The yearly target for early childhood literacy and numeracy is 56 for literacy and 57 for numeracy of students that meet or above, that are at the meet or above grade level performance for the 2023 school year, 2024 school year, excuse me. It is important to note that a 60% is still an A for accountability for the targets listed here. The first set of data that we will look at is the December and January STAR Renaissance projections. STAR Renaissance is a tool that is primarily used for intervention purposes. However, it does provide a statistical projection of how students might perform on the state STAR exam. It is important to note that it is not designed to mirror the state's test, but does cover similar concepts. So this slide provides campus-level what-if projections for the state assessment if it were to have happened in December or January. You can see that the three columns of performance data: approaches, which is the minimum passing threshold; meets, which is where our annual target of 56% is set; and masters in the final column there. With the district performance level at 52% for meets currently, we are on the right trajectory for achieving the annual target. Now we're going to take a closer look at mathematics. This slide shows similar information for math. As a district, we're even closer, if not exceeding, our target of 57% based on projections of 58% currently. Next, we'll take a look at our middle-of-the-year CBAs, or curriculum-based assessments. The data presented allows us to compare where we were at the beginning of the year across campuses to where we are now. These scores are not necessarily useful in projecting STAR outcomes, as the assessment does not test the whole year of learning, but rather a narrow portion of learning. As we take a look at third grade reading data, we do see some movement from the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year is the top two columns, middle of the year is the bottom two columns, and then the bottom two rows, and then the final row is the change between the two. As we take a look at third grade reading data, we do see some movement. We do see that Polk and Lanier led the district in overall performance, while the gap in performance widened at both Ogg and Roberts Elementary. In mathematics, there tends to be a tighter grouping of performance. Once again, we do see that Polk, Lanier, along with Ogg, do lead the district, while most of our campuses are performing very close to the district average of 90%. As we seek to continue to improve our student outcomes for this year and next, we remain focused on rock-solid instruction by increasing the use of our Tier 1 instructional priorities for math and reading. Campuses and district support are providing targeted support to individual students and classrooms. We are increasing review and support for specific learning standards that do need improvement, ensuring that students are familiar with and repeatedly using the new question types that started last school year for the STAR, and we're striving to increase new opportunities for writing in all of our curricular areas and increasing common language and strategies for writing across the district. This information is report only, and at this time I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
For the TSI, I love that we're doing it universal. Can we move that to sophomore year rather than junior year?
We could. Most of the students are going to be best equipped their junior year due to Algebra 2 being one of the main requirements for students to be able to pass, and then normally English 3 students are best prepared. But we do have many students that take it before then as part of dual credit and are quite successful.
Is that you only have to take certain parts of that depending on the dual credit classes you're taking, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. So if you're not taking a math class or a math equivalent class, then you don't have to take that portion of it, but there's other sections you do.
But if you're capable of passing both parts, it's a very easy way to earn your senior off period.
No, yeah, 100%. That is a CCO college career
Yes, sir.
standard. Okay.
That's a big carrot for seniors.
Yeah.
That off period.
I think both of my kids only went maybe 3 classes a year, so they did pass the TSTI, so they could have done it, but that's all right. Yeah. Big incentive.
Atkins?
Would you go back to the graph, the potential conspiracy graph there? Yeah, right there. Not to discredit public schools or anything, but that was very interesting. So, moving on to the next one.
What's interesting about it, though, is that we put so much effort into CTE and getting off the old 4x4 plan, and that they're going back to a scale that creates the same disadvantage they had before, right? They push it down a path.
It's deja vu all over.
Yeah, it pushes right down the same path, yeah. Let's backtrack everything we've done the last 6 years.
The CCMR ready, you're talking about getting ready if you're not past whatever. What are a couple of things that would consist of, as far as, you know, the senior off times?
So they can be scheduled for, so for instance, college prep math, college prep reading language arts, of which that course, the Texas College Bridge, is also a part of, so they could be scheduled in that course. They could be scheduled in an industry-based CTE course in which they're going to get a certificate. They could be scheduled for an AP course where they're likely to score a 3 or above. They could be scheduled in dual credit courses. Some students have taken 6 dual credit courses, or 6 hours worth, and they only need 1 more class worth 3 hours to get across that finish line. So honestly, it is every student's a little bit different. There are certain qualifications for special education students as well that are different and unique. So I actually sat with the teams at both Brazosport and Brazos with high school, and we went by hand through every senior schedule to ensure that they were scheduled for something at the beginning of the year.
So that really falls back to counseling effort.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That the individual gets, which is what we want to do, so that's good. One thing when Ron was on the taper report that I had written down, but it shows that 74% are taking some type of CTE course.
Yes, sir.
For Brazosport ISD. That's a nice number. I found that number and said, hey, that looks good. So, okay, very good. Oh, I know. One more last thing. For the 3rd grade, CBA, and possibly 4th grade, I guess you have, I would like to see for OG the breakout, the total like you have, but I'd also like to see the GT kids and also the remainder. So if you can provide that, I'd like to look at that.
Yes, we can we'll repost it again once we separate out the GT Academy. Yes, sir.
Any other comments? Audience?
I think offering the TSI on campus is very helpful and very useful. I had to take my math TSI a few times, which wasn't great. I had to go to the college because I didn't meet the time requirements, but I took it on campus my sophomore year, freshman year, I think, like the first semester of my freshman year, and I thought it was really beneficial. So, I'll offer that.
Thank you for sharing.
Take advantage of it, real life. It's a massive advantage, full credit for sure.
All right. That is all. Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Thank you.
Next item that we have is special report, 2024 Texas Federal Advocacy Conference. Mr. Atkins.
Who approved this? Joe.
Oh, clicker.
Sorry.
Mason, we thought you had control of the agenda.
Yeah.
Thanks.
He was thinking. Anyway, as been mentioned, I attended the Texas Federal Advocacy Conference in Washington DC this past week, I guess, 12/13. Pretty enlightening. Basically, the legislative focus that we went there was fully funding the Individuals with Disability Education Act, which is, there's some bills currently there. Senate Bill 2217, it's got a lot of bipartisan support, and then basically, it indicates that for 2024, hopefully we can get the funding from 12% to 14.2, and then continue on. There's a lot of support for it, but it's not, and I'll explain a little bit later what's got to happen before it can go. But that was one of the things that we met with Senator Cornyn's office to discuss. And the other was eliminating punitive provisions in Social Security, the increase in benefits for retired teachers. I don't get a lot of input on that around here. I think it's prevalent elsewhere, but I don't know if there's a lot of concern for our teachers. However, as we continue on the CTE process and we pull these people in from industry to teach, and they go to TRS, that could be a factor. So apparently it's pretty significant.
I'm affected by that.
Oh, we got one affected. So anyway, that didn't spend as much time as trying to fund the IDA. Of course, remember, fully funding IDA from the federal government is 40% of the total that we get. So anyway, the first person, this Sasha Pudeski, was the director of advocacy at AASA, and I'm not sure what that stands for, but it's a superintendent association. So this lady was very knowledgeable. She rolled through a bunch of stuff. So her first item was that from Congress there's a confusion and lack of leadership for education effort. I wrote that down because that was the first thing she said. I had to write that down verbatim. So, but for our Title I, you can see that 2023 had 18.4, and the Senate and the House have a little different projections for the budget. That's astonishing that, you know, the Senate has 18.6, which is an increase, but the House is 3.7. But she said most likely there's not going to be a change. But I thought that was just goofy. But again, the IDA, the fully funding, there's 134 co-sponsors. Fortunately, Weber and Cornyn are not on that list, and there's another story on that one. I'll wait till later. A lot of effort to see the mental crisis, and the mental health crisis, and the Student Privacy Act is the social media. There's been a lot about that, and apparently one of the problems is all the federal agencies, the FCC, the Education Department, and the FTC have overlapping authorities, and so that just leads to more confusion apparently. The new Medicaid, CHARS, 3.7 total lost for Medicare, 1.3 million in Texas, so a big proportion of that. And then the FCC, we're talking about our internet access. This lady who I met like 3 or 4 years ago is now the chairman of the FCC, and she's really pushing to get a lot of connectivity in the rural areas, and including the buses, Wi-Fi, and the hotspots. So that's very interesting. Didn't highlight highlight the Department of Labor, because I didn't quite understand this, but there's proposed rules for overtime, which could drive up the salaries from 35 to 55. Are you all aware of that? 'Cause it was a surprise to me, so. Anyway, and then Roberto Rodriguez, who was Assistant Secretary for the Department of Education, gave us a little address, and basically, he again talked about the legislative energy is lacking, so there's consistent effort on that one, I guess, agreement. You mentioned, and then you can see some of the other stuff they're doing, the AI effort, which I thought was interesting, because this was February 12th, and I think in the week before, or maybe the same week, came out that our TEA is using AI to score the STAR test, which was kind of a surprise to probably everybody. Talked about the chronic absenteeism. They've seen where you have a group, for some reason, community or get together where they do home visits, there's a 17% improvement, so kind of food for thought there as far as addressing the absentee problem. Education Department would like to see enrollment be the basis of funding rather than at ADA as such, so don't know if that's ever going to happen, but it makes perfect sense. 2,100 active apprentices over 30 states, which I thought was kind of low, and we have, I mean,
197.
Okay, close to 100, so we're, 5%. You mentioned the career counseling, having knowledge of the jobs, and I think that we do a great job on that based on our industry input and et cetera, so I think that's good. You mentioned FAFSA for coming up. He definitely hemmed and hawed and passed on and went around in circles and, had a hard time answering that question because, it came from the Department of Education, so, I guess the bottom line, he says, it'll be solved here soon, but still waiting for the most of it. Margarita Rosa, she's the research professor and director of edunomics, which is a made-up word, she said, Georgetown University. Lady was extremely knowledgeable of school finance across the country. She said for the fiscal year 24-25, the best term they can use is the bloodletting. So, and she said, I know it sounds gruesome, but that's it. But the bottom, I didn't highlight the bottom, but she was saying, hey, spend your ESSER funds, keep your reserves, so when it comes down the next year or two, you have a softer landing. I think we've done that. We're doing that, so ahead of the curve on that. But like I say, she was very knowledgeable and very straightforward, so it was very interesting. Growing numbers in Texans, librarians, assistant principals, administration. Her comment was there's more adults in the building now. I don't know if we totally agree with that, but that was her position. I think that the question that she came up says, hey, did we benefit from the added persons? How does that add value? So I think that's the question that we, need to continue to ask. And then at the bottom, of course, student emphasis. That's really the basis for all the investments. This was internships on Capitol Hill, the UT system. I didn't hear too much because I was eating lunch at the time. So, this federal lobbying, basically, again, we're talking about the future effect of the CTE teachers. I'll put that in because I think that's something we need to consider. Supreme Court, I didn't, it's very entertaining, but he played a lot of the questions and answers back and forth on some of the cases for education, but I didn't learn a whole lot there. This was the AI, artificial intelligence and education. And again, this was something that they brought up. This was like Monday the 12th, and then we see that it's already happening. Which I was surprised when I got back. Claude is a system. I don't know what it is, but he said that's a system that is being used. I don't know who. Anthropic is the one who generates it. So. One of the things they talked about was the distance stands for AI. You know, eventually I'm sure we're gonna have policy plans and how to manage it, and basically be careful of the vendors, because they're out there now just lurking, so to speak. And then there was data, they had so much data, this guy had so much data on the voters and election year, and it was hard to comprehend and quickly. The meeting with Gordon's office was the education A, Laura Irvin. We discussed the focus, and I was able to go through the presentation. I think I sent that to you all this morning about actually what was put together by our staff, and I was able to leave a copy, and I was the only one that had anything written, so I was proud of that. So definitely want to thank Lauren and Rebecca and Danny for directing the two, I guess, that's the way it works. So, and then I asked Danny, so anyway. So thank you all, it was an interesting visit, learned a lot, got to meet a lot of people. I will tell you one thing that happened, Dr. Rebecca and I she's from Irving, we were in Cornyn's office, in his front office, sitting in chairs, waiting, because we were older, we got to sit down, so it worked out great. But listening to the phone calls, the two people answering the phone calls in the office was an amazing sight and sound. It was just, we only heard one side of the conversation, of course, but it was like, no, this is not a conspiracy. No, he's actually Republican. No, he does this. No, he's not. No, I can't talk to you if you use that language. And so it was just on and on and on. And so it's kind of like, these people have some great training in answering the phones, you know. So I think we're doing that too with our crew. So, but that was amazing. I told him when I left, I said, you know, our school system, you know, Dr. Johnson talked about having a special place in heaven for pre-K and K. I said, you know, we do that, but I want to add you two to that list, because it was amazing. Just 20 minutes of listening to it. I mean, it was like nonstop. So, but anyway, it was a good visit. I don't know that we made much progress with Senator Cornyn and the IDEA, because he's not signed on, and the indication was it was the Democrat who sponsored the bill didn't ask him to be a co-sponsor, so now he's not sure he wants to. Although he does support funding IDEA, not sure he can sign on as a co-sponsor. So one of our board member asked, well, if he feels that way about supporting it, why doesn't he sign on? And didn't really get an answer. Anyway, it was a good trip. I appreciate you guys letting me do it. Learned a lot, made a couple of new contacts. So as we move forward, can call on them for any information that they may have.
Good.
I don't know what to do with it.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. I'll let you. Next item that we have on our agenda are our board committee reports. Any of the board members have any other reports from the last month? Anyone?
Congrats to swimming and wrestling. Did well at state.
Yeah.
Great.
Some little girl from Freeport did.
Yeah, Freeport did all right.
Yeah, she did okay.
Not sure about her grandparents yet.
Her grandmother.
Is that all from you?
She was sober.
Other swimming companies? Well, what about efforts?
What about that?
The Gulf Coast Association of School Boards met and had a legislative update, and about as dismal as what we heard tonight. So.
All right. Any public comment before we move on? All right. Now then, our next work session, our next meeting is March the 18th, right here at 6. Next item that we have on our agenda is executive session. Executive session may be called for the purposes permitted by the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Section 551.071 through 551.146, Sections 551.071 consultation with attorney, Sections 551.071 on any agenda item, Section 551.72 for the purpose of discussing the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, Sections 551.074, personnel matters, appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, dismissal or complaint. Sections 551.074, superintendent's contract extensions. Section 551.082, for the purpose of considering discipline of a public school child or complaint or charge against personnel. We shall return. All right, it is 9:31.
Oh, my God.
We reconvene from executive session. The time is 9:31. We have one last agenda item, action item, concerning the superintendent's contract. Questions or public comments will be allowed before a vote is taken on each action. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we agree to extend Danny Massey's contract by